to the extent that we can somehow or another shut that off for a period of time and simply ask at the deepest, truest level that we can, what am I here for? Why am I here? What is this path that I am called to be expressing in life? And if you can do that, then the answers will tend to be most true for you. I needed to ask the question without any kind of an agenda or attachment to a particular answer. I mean, really surrendering into, show me what it is that is on my path. And I just ended up getting a really clear message. Yeah, do the business. It's going to be fine. And then acting on it without hesitation.
Hi, I'm Brian Wish, and welcome back to the One Away Show. Today's guest is Annette, a leader with deep clarity, a sharp sense of direction, and a calm presence that grounds the teams she works with. In this episode, we talk about the decision that pulled her away from comfort and pushed her toward growth. We explore how she's learned to trust her inner compass, especially in moments of uncertainty. Annette opens up about the experience of moving from structure to ambiguity, how she approaches leadership with intention, and why staying curious, not just decisive, has helped her evolve across every stage of her journey. Let's get into it. Annette, welcome to the One Away Show.
Hey, Brian, really good to see you.
Yeah, really good to see you as well. So Annette, I've loved getting to know you and learn a little bit more about you, but I think we're going to learn a lot more about you today. What's the one away moment that you want to share with us today?
I had an experience early in my career, and I'm kind of old probably compared to most of your guests here, but I was in my mid-20s, and I had gone through sort of a divorce, and then I'd left a big corporation, and I was working for a very small company and ended up like 5 people in this company and ended up in a conversation that with my boss's wife that kind of went sideways. And all of a sudden I was fired. And I had been doing executive recruitment, sales, and I'd been making my numbers, and I never thought that would ever happen to me. And so I was unexpectedly, was 28 years old at the time, and thinking, what next? And I was applying to law school and actually interviewing with the CIA and looking at doing other high-tech jobs. So I'm really at a place where I'm trying to reinvent my life. And I was thinking about starting a business. And 2 really important things happened. One of them was a conversation I had with my dad that really had a huge impact on me. And my dad is a really interesting guy. Was born and raised on a ranch. And so he's got this sort of quiet, smart way of just sort of sizing things up pretty quickly without a lot of words. And so he basically says, you know, Annette, if you wherever we're thinking about doing this entrepreneur thing, he goes, now would be a good time. And he sort of says this that felt like a bit of a backhanded sort of a insult, but he meant it well, because he goes, you know, look at your life. I mean, you're not married, you're divorced here, you don't have any kids, you don't have a lot of stuff. I mean, like, what worse could really happen? I mean, you're unemployed. And I heard him and I thought, well, that's true. Like, what if in a year I tried this business and I'm back here where I am now? Is that really that bad? And then he said something more. He goes, well, and by the way, you're looking to go into law school. How much is tuition? And why don't you consider a year of this entrepreneur thing like it's tuition? How much money are you prepared to lose? And what was really important about that is that all of a sudden I could quantify the risk, both in terms of money and time. And all of a sudden, the fear of what that failure might look like just sort of dissolved. And I think that's really important for people that are thinking about doing high risk things to just get very, very comfortable and aware of what does success look like, but also what is failure.
Hmm. Well, I love the breakdown of how you were thinking about this. It's like law school, divorce, got fired. It seemed like such a turbulent period. And opposed to, I mean, I'm sure you did, but just sticking your head in the sand and kind of just saying, yeah, woe is me, your father gave you a perspective, maybe, or an option that you didn't maybe see for yourself initially. What my question is what made him say, hey, this is the time to do the entrepreneurial path? Were these because of previous discussions? He just saw something in you? Like, what was it about? Yeah.
I possibly my dad had an entrepreneurial itch. He couldn't really help it. He was a rancher guy, and then he was a school teacher, but then he ended up getting involved in real estate. And so he had some of that. But I think he saw that in me, which was really a gift to me because he ended up helping me with some of the additional funding I needed for the company, like putting up a house that was collateral for a line of credit, which was a big deal. So he's taking his own risk around it too, which was something that made me kind of work harder about it. I also think it's important to take the time to be really reflective of, like, at the deepest level that you can ask the questions, especially when you're like at some crossroads in your life. It's like, well, there's what our mind and chatter says, and maybe it's what the voice of our parents or grandparents or society or whatever says, you should do this so that you can be, I don't know, this or that. But to the extent that we can somehow or another shut that off for a period of time and simply ask at the deepest, truest level that we can, what am I here for? Why am I here? What is this path that I am called to be expressing in life? And if you can do that, then the answers will tend to be most true for you. And so that was the other thing that I did. So I get this feedback from my dad, which was really important. And then it was as if everything converged on like a day where I either needed to turn down or accept a couple of job offers or decide I'm going to do the law school thing or do the business thing. And I had been meditating and I took time to just get really, really quiet and sit with the question, show me my path. Like, and in a way where truly any answer I would trust and would be, and I would act on it. I needed to ask the question without any kind of an agenda or attachment to a particular answer. I mean, really surrendering into, show me what it is that is on my path. And I just ended up getting a really clear message. Yeah, do the business. It's going to be fine. And then acting on it without hesitation.
Annette, I have a question, but how old were you again? Like, what was your exact
28.
28?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's profound age to be kind of maybe seeking deeper truth. I mean, your dad sounds like he was a great influence and gave you a good perspective or a good guardrail and decision making, but to take it upon yourself to like trust so deeply, meditate, think like, was that your first time kind of in that spiritual act, or was there a spiritual practice that?
Okay, that's a great question, Brian. So in my early 20s, I had graduated college. Right away, I go to work for IBM. I meet this guy, and he's super good looking. He's smart. The sex is amazing. And at some point he goes, you know, we should get married. And instead of going, oh, amazing, I go like, why? He goes, well, I don't know. It's pretty good. And I kind of go, yeah, okay, that sounds fine. So we end up getting married. And what happened is this is a really, really painful lesson. I'm engaged and I start getting all of these weird messages from the universe that I shouldn't get married. Catholic priest leaves the priesthood. I break my foot like a month before I'm supposed to walk down the aisle. I keep having all of these weird dreams where I'm supposed to get married and I'm always showing up at the wrong church. I mean, there were like the wedding dress gets lost in the mail. There were all these things that kept happening and I didn't pay any attention. And my sister even said, who was my maid of honor, goes, I don't think you should get married. And I was just like so headstrong. And I ended up getting married. And on the honeymoon, he's like, yeah, I think I made a mistake. I was pissed. I was like, not so heartbroken. I was like really mad about it. And so that was such a painful lesson, Brian, about not paying attention to the signals, that it was like loud and clear. I don't need that kind of hardship and heartbreak and pain because I was just too stupid and arrogant to listen. That was the motivator. So back to your question, how did you get wise? It's because it was painful.
Wow. So it wasn't. So it was when you were engaged that you started getting all these signals for maybe the first time in life that the direction that you were headed was not the right path for you, and
Right.
you started questioning. That's when kind of
I just blew it off. I was arrogant. Okay, to be fair, I grew up in a really great family. My mom and dad loved them. They're really good people. They had opinions about everything. And when I ended up leaving the house at 17, going to college, never came back and lived at home, I was like, my mindset was, I'm going to live my own life. I'm going to make my own decisions. Even if they're bad decisions, they'll be mine. I'm so over like trying to please everybody else about it. And so I had to learn. I just had to learn. And there's probably other people that would have been way smarter than me about how they would do their path. But for me, that was what it took.
I love that you, at that age, like really took it upon yourself to, because I think the natural thing for any 28-year-old would kind of fall back in the path of, I should be maybe getting to the next relationship or going back to the job just for what's secure, opposed to you're like, no, I'm going to bet on myself, listen to the voice inside. And 28 years old, it's a very similar timing of my own journey, but it was about you. But, a bond here for sure.
Absolutely.
So Annette, you trusted, you listened, your dad was supportive, and you got some signals that the past was not the right path. I would love to know from you, about the business area when you bet on double down on yourself. You said you did it without, you said you just went and trusted yourself and you went like right in without hesitation. Like, were you scared? Did you know what you were going to do? Like, what was the thought process of, all right, this next chapter and I'm boom, here I go.
Well, a couple of things worked in my benefit. And one of them was that I had a few really good relationships from people customers early in my career. And one of the relationships was with a really big telecom company here in Denver. It used to be US West or Quest or whatever. And I remembered going to this client and basically saying, hey, I'm looking at starting my own business. If I do this, could you be a customer of mine? I just asked. And she goes, yeah, you've got to get properly insured and all that stuff for our contract. But yeah, absolutely. So I was lucky enough that I had a starting really big client. And I knew from experience how to work with them. And so I don't know if I was lucky, but it was a really important thing. And then I was really clear and disciplined about what the business plan was. So there were like 3 strategies. I'm going to grow this account. I'm going to create a partner model where I can identify other companies that do something really similar to me, but don't compete with me. And I'm going to be really aggressive about setting up referral contracts, arrangements with them. And then the third one was to pursue sort of that minority business supplier route. Only 3 strategies. And then have a really clear business plan for what the revenue was for the year and breaking it all down into detail. How many deals, how many calls were required to get those deals, what my hit rate would be. It was all really specific and disciplined. And I came within 20 grand of an $800,000 plan for the first 12 months, which was, I mean, it's remarkable even in retrospect because you don't know what's going to happen. You're creating something out of nothing. You know, the way I think about starting a business is, this may sound a little bit weird, but it's as if you're putting all of this mental and emotional and activity energy into creating something that has its own inertia, its own community, its own activity, its own value, all of that. And there's so much energy that goes into it, but so it's hard to know the way it's going to turn out. But I saw that being like the most important thing I could do at the time.
I mean, I just love the methodical nature in which you like plan with such a quantitative. I mean, it's like there was trust and there was intuition and there was this is it. But once you kind of got clarity on that, it's like you put a plan in place and then kind of almost hit it to the deep. I mean, that's absolutely incredible.
And I would add, because by that time I met my new husband and we were, you know, I met him, frankly, right when I started the company, but I had a process and it's going to sound goofy, but I really need to share it with you because I do think it matters. I was in this executive suite. I would go into work and I've got this big desk that I'm sitting on. It's not, I don't know, came with the office. And I would look at the filing cabinets and I would spend about 10 minutes a day visualizing all the different examples of what progress would look like. So I would envision, because I hate cold calling, but I would envision me picking up the phone, calling people, having them set up meetings with me, being open to talking with me. I would see myself writing things in my schedule that demonstrated that I'm getting all of the context I need per week. And then I would imagine that. And then I would see getting requirements or invitations. I was doing technical staffing at the time. I'd get job orders and I would see myself filling out the information and I would see the requirements that I'm bringing in. And I knew how many requirements I needed to get in order. I could place about 1 out of every 3. And I saw myself interviewing people. And then I saw myself getting the request, hey, they want to hire somebody, and then doing the contracts and even opening the mail so that there's a check coming in. Now, all of this is now very electronic, but the point is the ways that we're able to rehearse our success matter a lot in what we end up creating. And it almost like forces us to be clear about what we're doing. And that in and of itself can be really important.
Wow. I mean, it's also like, I mean, what's standing out to me in this conversation too, it's such what a like evolved mindset, right? Like visualization techniques and rehearsing and all things that like when you talk to or can read about like the best athletes or the best performers or business, like you were doing like out of the gate. I mean, again, I'm not saying it was just all easy and you take this upon yourself, but you were like really like tapped in to like the internal being of yourself. I mean, that's incredible for such a young age. Let me ask you a question. I don't want to go too far on a tangent, but at 28 years old, or 29 or even 30, I mean, did you, with peers, maybe your age, did you have close friends or were your friends older? I'm just like curious on kind of your makeup of relationships at that.
So here's one of the things that I was really good about. I kept my eyes open for getting help anywhere, anywhere I could, whenever, and free was better. So seriously, so somehow or another, I remember seeing something that came in from the SBA for you were a women business and you wanted a mentor for your business, sign up here. And I ended up getting a fabulous mentor. So I'm doing IT staffing as a business. We're doing other things now as an IT solutions and services company. But back then we were doing primarily IT staffing. So I end up getting this wonderful mentor, Jenny Ford, who's running a staffing firm for the legal industry. She's placing paralegals and lawyers and all this stuff. And I don't know what my karma was, but I remember getting together with Jenny. She goes, yeah, she's this kind of experienced person. She's like, yeah, I'm here to help you, but don't waste my time. When I have a meeting with you and we set certain things to talk about, I expect you to be organized, to do what you say you're going to do. When we get together, make this useful for me and you. And it was interesting because it was like, I was a little like scared. But it was the right thing for me because it laid the context for, I'm not here to be your therapist. I'm here to help. And you get really clear about what you need and be specific about it. And then it became really useful. Like, oh, I need new contracts for dealing with this. Then I need to understand how and where I go to make sure I'm compliant with payroll taxes, or geez, I'm running into this with like a sales issue. And it was all very pragmatic, really pragmatic. And so it helped me a lot at the beginning. And then later, I got another mentor. And I'll be damned, Percy wasn't the same way. He's like, yeah, a friend of mine asked me if I'd mentor this program. I said, yes, but I'm not really that happy about it. Don't waste my time. And I'm like, understood. I hear you. I won't. And then we became really good friends. So anyway, those would be examples of things that I think are really important for people to do. Get help wherever, whenever. And there's a lot out there.
Let me ask you this. Some people, Annette, are like asking for help is something that, and again, I want to get back to with the IT services business and solutions business you built because it seems like really special. But some people are not like they're not asking for help is it takes so much. I mean, not only were you tapped in, dialed in, you're asking the right questions, but you took all the help you could get. Like, where did you learn that was okay? Was that just instincts, or were you raised saying it's okay to get help?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, I was raised kind of opposite. I was raised in this, I'm half Native and half Hispanic. And so I don't know if you know much about Latino culture. There's a lot of this machismo stuff. It's like, I got this. No, I mean, you don't complain about anything. You don't ask for help. So it wasn't really a cultural thing. For me, it had more to do with my ambition. It was more about how am I doing everything I can do to make sure that I'm successful. And there was a lot I didn't know. There's some things like and not all businesses are like this, but my opinion is that if you can't figure out sales for a business, you don't have a business long term. So I knew a lot about sales from my background. What I didn't know was accounting because I was an engineer and a salesperson. And so that was hard. I didn't know contracts. I hadn't really negotiated contracts before. This whole world of insurance and all that crap, totally something I didn't know. So I leaned into what were my strengths and aptitudes, and then I tried to be really honest with myself about what my weaknesses were and what I needed to do to shore those up. I'm not sure where this came from. There's sort of an adage about entrepreneurs and their businesses and the fact that the strengths and weaknesses of the entrepreneur are expressed in the business, but magnified. So if by chance you're really good at things, that will help support the business do some things really well. To the extent that you've got important weaknesses that you don't know how you will shore them up, it will surely hold you back.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I definitely have learned those some of those lessons firsthand. But yeah, absolutely. Um, what were on that note, Annette, when you think about, I mean, it's neat that from your culture, like you run, hey, this maybe isn't how I grew up, but pure ambition, I was gonna go for it. But when you think about some of those weaknesses, maybe for yourself as you were getting going, what do you think showed up for you the most inside the business that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, that was really interesting because when I was a little girl, I was like painfully shy. This is a funny story. When my older sister and I, she's only 12 months different in age, we would go out and sell Girl Scout cookies. And my mom would line it all up with the neighbors in advance. And even still, it was so painful for me to go out there and just show up and go, will you want to buy Girl Scout cookies? And I would cry and I carry on about it. So I was really, really shy. And I bring that up because for me, the hardest thing is like the meeting new people about sales, whether that's picking up the phone or whether that's like going and networking and stuff like that. It's just naturally, there's this part of me that's still that 6-year-old kid that was just always really, really shy. And so what I knew was that if I couldn't be disciplined about the sales, it would never happen. So I would say these things to myself like, here's the number, here's the goal, and I would reward myself by stopping the sales activity once I got my goal. But I had to be really disciplined about it. So I think I don't know, it was sort of brute force at the time. But that distaste for doing it and how painful it was made me get more creative about it. So if I'm going to be putting calls into people, they better be smarter and more specific and applicable than some dumb, hey, do you want to talk to me kind of a call. I had to be really good because I didn't want to be keeping calling people and having them say no.
I didn't pick this up on the first call, but I think you and I are more similar than I would have ever anticipated. It's great.
In what way, Brian?
No, well, we talk after, but just just the way you live life and think and do, it's beautiful. So I resonate with a lot of what you're sharing. Annette, let me ask you this. So I want to hear about the business as well, right? I'm getting the mindset of Annette. I'm getting the hustle, make it happen. I'm getting the spiritual realm of Annette. Like I'm seeing kind of how you do things, but on this journey, you have built from what I can tell, pretty, nice business for yourself. And tell us about the business, what you built, kind of a bit about the journey. I know we have only so much time, but I'm sure we'll dive some good stuff here.
So I just want to talk briefly context on what my intention was of starting my own company.
Okay.
And it was at that stage of my life, I'm thinking, if I ever want to have a family, I don't want to be feeling like I can't take my daughter to work if she gets sick. all my programming at the time was working for businesses where there was no room for any of that. And so a big part of my motivation was to build the kind of business I would want to work at. And that meant there's a respect for the fact that we have lives that are outside of our business. So we go to work and we've got our careers, and then we've got our family and personal lives, and they push on each other at different times. And I wanted it to be a place where there was room for both to be there. And so anyway, started the company as an IT staffing business, and it grew very quickly. And at some point I can talk to you about even some of the really scary risks that can come with success. That was interesting. And then at one point decided, after about 10 years of being in the business, I'm going to try going into the call center business, and opened up call centers in Canada and had about 1,000 people that were working for me doing call center type work, which was really interesting. Especially also kind of, we think of Canada being like the United States. It's not, kind of mostly, but not, not exactly. That was a big learning. And then deciding we didn't really want to be in that business anymore. And now the company is primarily focused on managing technology for other organizations. So we do that for smaller and mid-sized businesses as well as for governments. So, state of Colorado and state of Utah and Wyoming, we manage parts of their technology operations. And so we're not real big right now. We've got about 100 employees that are doing various kinds of engineering and infrastructure and technology support kinds of work for kind of more regional Mountain West footprint.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you said not real big, but I would say, 100 people and managing government infrastructure is, it's probably a lot to be proud of. So it sounds like the business has gone through some transformations and
Right.
some evolutions, and you've been able to design it in a way, to set it up for a life that you can get a step away from or do things that you want to do. And obviously easier said than done. But let's say the next 10 years of this big business, like what do you want from this business? When it's all said and done, like what are, you talked about the intention for starting it and kind of the intention around it, but what is the intention of the business today?
So as a services company, which we're primarily a services company, so we use some technology and tools and other things like that, but it's really on us to be supporting our customers to be able to do what they want to do with their technology, to either help them scale or to deal with some pain point or problem in their organization. And so at the heart of the services company, we need to be, our mission and vision is to be helping our clients use technology so that it can accelerate their mission. So whether that's healthcare, got some hospitals that we work with, or whether it's engineering, our goal is to be supportive of that. And my perspective is that to be good at that, let me rephrase this. Our goal always needs to be about bringing value. And in bringing value to our customers, we become valuable. I believe that the landscape is really interesting with AI now regarding what that means for our customers, what that means for us about how we operate as a business, and to the extent that we embrace it and leverage it, and moreover, help our customers figure out how to do that is part of what our evolving mission needs to include. So, for example, we've got like a hospital, by example, will call us and go, we really need to use AI, we think, because if we don't, I'm not sure if we're going to get left behind. And then you go, great, how can we help you do that so that you're not at risk of a breach?
Hmm.
How can we help you to do that so that when you pick a tool, it doesn't open it up for a bunch of data loss or somebody inadvertently using it in a way where it's going to be a really big, expensive problem for you? To me, this is the next iteration of it. So AI is going to be a part of what a lot of organizations are going to be using every day. How we help them to do that securely and responsibly is part of what I see being how we evolve in the market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you're looking at this as a very forward-looking view of like, all right, the market with technology has landed us here. Now we have all these clients asking us, and I'm sure it's different for everyone in the use cases and how you have to augment things. And I can't even imagine where you start that conversation. But if they're looking to you for that conversation, I would say that's a pretty powerful position to be in.
It can be, and it's on us to keep up with a rapidly evolving technology transformation. I've never seen anything hit this fast, and so it's quite a ride for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Because as one friend says, it's a new electricity. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
totally. Let me ask you this. I on our first call, you mentioned, giving your background being Latin and from the community, you know, elevating others in similar shoes, especially women. How do you do that within your company? How do you do that for other women outside your company? What's that look like for you?
Well, that's a really good question. In general, the tech industry still tends to have a lot more guys. So I'll just put that out there. And we have a lot of men in our organization that do really, really good work. That said, the way that I try to work it is whenever possible that we can hire and bring in women into our organizations in non-traditional roles. It's a really high priority to do that. And I'm aware of within our own organization who we're elevating and the roles we're putting them into. I'm always one of the ones that's asking, we need to do everything we can to help them be successful. How do we make sure that they're not going to step into some mess that somebody didn't tell them about? How can we make sure that they know they're supported? So those are a few of the ways that we do that.
So, Annette, I mean, with the work that you sounds like in the workforce, like you're looking out for women in a similar shoes. Men do really well, but to bring in diverse backgrounds into the tech industry, that's super important to you. And then, are you involved with an organization outside of your existing company where you're doing work in that space as well?
I do. So this is kind of an interesting thing because I was reading some of the articles that you wrote, and one of them was about personal branding and stuff like that. And it sort of caused me to think about like, well, do I do a good job of managing that? No, not really. But for me, I think this idea of like branding and like who we are even beyond like our work in our business should be an authentic and organically motivated, I don't know, a purpose around doing more. So in my case, to me, it's never been enough for our business to be successful on its own. There's an expectation I have that we give back in some way or another. And generally, that has included when I get tapped to be involved or engaged in the community, I show up.
Mm.
So that's been a variety of different things from our Chamber of Commerce in Denver to our Visitor Bureau in Denver to the Nature Conservancy of Colorado to the Tech Association to being an early investor in a Latino philanthropy organization, show up when asked. To me, it's part of our way of giving back, and to do that in ways that are both sort of can be more broad community about the bigger purpose, as well as like individual ways to mentor different people that might ask for help. I still do that because I don't know, because it feels like it's important.
Yeah,
You never know who you're going to help.
that's right. Well, I love that you just show up to things that it sounds like call you, are aligned with your values and aligned with the work that you and the impact you want to have on the world based on the people that have helped you and in similar shoes. And yeah, this has been an awesome conversation. Great way to start a Monday. What if you could go back to the 28-year-old Annette's at the beginning of the business or the kind of thinking about life. What are the lessons that you want to impart on them as we close out today?
I think there are two really important things to kind of keep in mind. And one of them is to trust that quiet voice and take the time to really cultivate being able to hear it. That's part of it. The other part is that, and I presume that for men and for women and for, regardless of what your background or ethnicity is, have a really clear sense of who you are, because you're going to get a lot of messaging that feels all very competitive and all this other kind of stuff. And most of what gets thrown at you has nothing to do with you. So I remember when I was in, college, I just graduated college, and my mom happened to graduate college at the same time. She had gotten married when she was 18. She only had a high school degree. Later, she went back and got a college degree. She went into teaching, and she's telling me a story about a new principal in her school that she's just having a really hard time, like, getting on with. And she goes, and she says, I didn't used to have this issue with the old principal. I don't know what's going on. And at one point she builds up the courage to go ask this person, did I do something? I'm really trying hard to be a good teacher here. I don't understand, but you really seem to think I'm not doing a good job. And I just want to know what's going on. Here's what he said. He goes, Leela, I'm going through a really awful divorce, and you remind me so much of my ex-wife. I'm sorry I'm putting that at you. This is interesting because how many times in life is it somebody else's stuff and we didn't know? That was my big takeaway from it. And now we got a lot of that getting shoved around in the ether. We got a bunch of like attitudes and meanness and judgment and all this other kind of stuff. And I would venture to say one of the most important things you can do is decide when somebody's given that to you, if it says more about them than you, and just allow that to be yourself to be more insulated from it.
Wow. It's beautiful perspective, right? And it's like figuring out like what yours is to carry and what's theirs to carry, and being able to delineate between the two. Not easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, and what's hard about it is that I'm not advocating to be oblivious to feedback. Right. Please don't misunderstand that. We do need to be able to hear the feedback. But I think one of the challenges is like, I remember my daughter being in soccer and her complaining about her coach. He's so mean and he doesn't think I can do that. I mean, she's like all upset and heartbroken about it. And I remember talking to her and going, okay, you don't like how he said this, but are you going to throw it all out because you didn't like how he said it? Is there nothing in this that's useful for you? Be discerning. Be wise about it. Choose what you're going to take from this. It matters. And the fact that you're deciding to sort through this is powerful in and of itself.
Wow. What a great mother your daughter has.
She didn't like it much at the time. Do you think? my side. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Sounds like she was raised by a strong, thoughtful, emotionally intelligent woman. So I'm sure she's lucky to have you in her life today. So
That's really nice of you to say that, Brian.
yeah. Well, I think that's a great note to close on. Annette, where can people find you, learn more about you, and connect?
Sure. Annette Quintana on LinkedIn at Istonish. And the company name is Istonish Inc., www.istonish, like astonish, only with an I.com.
Great. Awesome. We'll send them up there. We'll swarm. We'll make them swarm.
Wonderful. Hey, it's been great talking with you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The One Away Show with Annette. What stayed with me most was her ability to lead with both confidence and humility, to hold clarity without rigidity, and to embrace the unknown as part of the path. Her story is a reminder that growth often begins where certainty ends, and that sometimes the most powerful move we can make is simply to step forward, even when the map is incomplete. If this conversation sparked something for you, I'd love it if you shared it or left a quick review. And as always, we'll be back with new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Until then, keep chasing the moments that move you.